Today we are reading the final reading from the Gospel of John. And if you remember now, we've been reading Mark all this year, ever since Advent. Why are we switching? Well, because Mark's Gospel isn't long enough for a section to be read each Sunday throughout the year. It's a very short Gospel. You could probably read it in less than half an hour straight through. And so this chapter 6 of John will be our meditation for the next 5 weeks before we resume Mark. And it begins, of course, with this very familiar multiplication of the food. This event occurs in every gospel, so therefore we assume it must be very important. In fact, in one gospel it's recorded twice. So we have to really enter into it, not only for its own sake, but for the sake of understanding the rest of this 6th chapter, which we'll hear in the weeks to come. Sometimes the best thing to do with an event in the gospel is to try to put yourself into it. Where would you be in this event? Would you be Philip? What could be done? There's no possibility. 200 days' wages to feed these people. What would if a lot of people have that attitude towards life? Nothing can be done. Look at our national scene. Look at our church. Look at my life. Or are you Andrew, who comes up with what seems to be a very silly statement, that he admits it himself. Well, there's somebody here with a little food, but what's that? But at least he brings it up. He brings to Jesus what little is available. Where do you fit in there? I think the picture painted in the second reading by St. Paul to the Ephesians, which is a great description of the discipleship, the church, us, is one that we don't see replicated around the world in our own day. We don't see one church, one faith, one Lord, one baptism, even though they're all there, because we have caused all kinds of divisions within our church community over the centuries. Well, not you and me. We're the inheritors of it, but we're also the perpetrators of it. We keep it going. Our national scene is just as divisive, as I'm sure you're aware. And so we just throw up our hands in disgust and say, to Hades with all of them in Washington. Is that the way a Christian approaches life? If we believe in the God who Jesus reveals to us in his own person, are we Philips or are we Andrews? Are we people who say nothing can be done, forget about it? Or do we take what little we have in our personal lives and on the national scene, in the church, and do we turn that over to Christ, that his will be done, that God's will be done, because they're the same thing? These questions really are important because we are responsible for our national life. We are responsible members of the body of Christ, and we have a mission to fulfill. And if we go like this and wash our hands of the whole mess, except for Mass on Sunday, if our attitude is negative as a Christian, will the will of God, as Christ has shown us, be carried on in the world through us? Because that's the plan. That's the way it works. Jesus isn't walking around Beaumont today. We are. And it's our attitude, our way of handling reality, whether they're personal problems and catastrophes, whether they're national things, or the more scandalous things even lately in our church. How are we handling this? As Philip or as Andrew? The psalm tells us, God, you open your hand to feed us. You answer all our needs. And that's going to be the content of the rest of these Sundays in John's Gospel. Jesus is the bread of life, and we're not talking about the Eucharist. Jesus is the bread of life. He himself is the way, we approach life, the way we sustain life, the way we handle the life which has come to us personally, nationally, or ecclesially. Jesus is the strength, the way, the life, and we have to walk in that way, as Andrews perhaps, just offering a little, whatever we have, but expecting that he will take what we offer and multiply it, but above all, succeed in bringing the world the truth about his Father. So the next few weeks will be important for us because they will help us to define what kind of Christian we are. Whether we people who just say we trust Christ or really do.